Welcome back to the vault, and this, an episode of story time. The vault doors are about to open and take us on another adventure taken from our archives. Please support our channel, The Vault, by giving us a subscribe and a like and hit that notification bell. Coming up, we have a special 3-part series of story times entitled The Unexplained Stories. In part 1 of The Unexplained Stories, we took the last flight of Amelia Earhart. And in part 2, we found out about the immortal Count Saint-Germain. In this, the final of the series, part 3, we take a journey to the depths of the unknown and the unexplained. This is the story, The Unexplained Nessie of the Loch. The problem of proving the existence of an unidentified monster in Loch Ness is made more difficult and compounded by the characteristics of the lake itself. Because of the labyrinthine loch bottom, in places 700 to 975 feet deep, underwater creatures can easily escape electronic detection. Added to that is the murkiness of the water, which is clotted and discoloured with vast amounts of suspended peat particles. Even a short distance below the surface, maximum underwater visibility may extend only a few feet. It was with these difficulties in mind that the 1972 expedition of the Academy of Applied Science, led by Dr. Robert H. Rhines, arrived at the loch with advanced sonar equipment supplemented by a camera strobe light, developed by Dr. Harold E. Egerton of MIT for photographing underwater life. The system consisted of a 16mm time-lapse motion picture camera with a synchronized flash unit of some 50 watt-seconds power. The objective, the almost impossible dream, was to obtain a combination of sonar and photographic evidence of the Scottish beastie known as Nessie. Luck would be as important as equipment, for obviously the investigators had no idea where their legendary target might be. They could only set up their equipment in areas where the creature had most often been seen and hope it might come by again. The loch's surface on the night of August 8th was unusually flat and calm. Members of the investigating team waited in boats anchored at Urquhart Bay, a short distance from shore. A sonar transducer was lowered from one boat and gently settled on the underwater slope with its beams aimed out into the loch. The stroboscopic camera was placed slightly farther down the slope and aimed, the strobe flashing periodically at the area encompassed by the sonar beam. At about 1 a.m. in the morning, the team began to see the heavy, dark traces of a large moving object on the sonar beam. The traces were similar to those obtained in the 1970 expedition. Excitement rose, and with it a sense of something ominous. At 1:40 a.m, the sonar recorded the flight of some salmon, shown by lighter discontinuous traces, and the appearance of 2 large objects. At the same time, the stroboscopic camera photographed the blobs picked up by the sonar beam. Because of the cloudiness of the water, the photographs were vague. But with computer enhancement, several images became apparent. 2 frames of film showed a flipper. Taken 45 seconds apart, the flipper pictures showed what seemed to be the same appendage in 2 different positions, indicating movement. A third picture revealed 2 objects that seemed to be large creatures. Correlation and analysis of the findings indicated that the flipper was about 4 to 6 feet long and that the 2 bodies were about 12 feet apart. Here it was at last, simultaneous sonar and photographic evidence of a large, long, flippered creature, 2 of them inhabiting Loch Ness. And yet, of course, there are still people who are not impressed. The real triumph at Loch Ness climaxed in June of 1975. The expedition was mounted again by the Academy of Applied Science. Added to the team's arsenal of detection equipment was an improved camera strobe system, incorporating new techniques designed to correct some of the technical problems that had hampered the 1972 investigation. The 1972 equipment was taken along to serve as an auxiliary system. Both cameras were provided with higher speed, more sensitive film. The main camera system, which was to be triggered by the sonar, was placed on the bottom ledge at a depth of 80 feet. The backup camera strobe was suspended from a boat at a level of 40 feet above the primary system. Repeatedly, the sonar record showed large objects near the sophisticated camera, but the film revealed nothing. Something at the bottom had stirred up clouds of silt that blocked the underwater view, and the only pictures were of silt. But the simpler backup system at 40 feet functioned faithfully throughout a 24-hour period, beginning late on June 19th and ending late on June 20th, shooting frame after frame at preset intervals. Several pictures show large objects within the strobe light beam. One includes a portion of a pinkish body. Another shows what looks like the upper torso, neck and head of a living creature with 2 stubby appendages. Sandwiched between shots of eels and fish is a sequence of frames revealing that the camera had been disturbed and set in a violent rocking motion, so that at one stage it pointed directly upward and photographed the bottom of the boat. Then, in the next frame, facing the camera, is a head of the monster, or something resembling an underwater dragon. The head is in half profile, showing nostrils, an open mouth, and several horn-like projections. A study of the several frames showing the body segments suggests a living creature with an overall length of 20 feet, a neck about 1.5 feet thick, and a mouth 9 inches long and 5 inches wide, and horns about 6 inches long, set about 10 inches apart. Other specimens may, of course, be considerably bigger. Whether or not this manifestation is the famous Loch Ness monster, it is undeniably an unexplained phenomenon that begs to be explained. Whether you believe in Nessie or not, and the tale of a monster in the loch, one point that is irrefutable is many strange going-ons and peculiar incidents have taken place in and around the loch over the centuries, involving many other unexplained phenomena. As recent as 2005, scientists studying the loch and its depths found a frog alive some near 325 feet down in the depths of the loch, where no frog should be, and left the team struggling to present any rational explanations. But the story of Nessie, of the loch, for now, remains unexplained. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Storytime and enjoyed the mini-series of Unexplained Stories. Please comment and let us know what you thought of this story and whether you believe in Nessie or not. If you want to check out the other videos in the series, please see the description of this video where there are links, and please comment to those videos. This mini-series of Unexplained Stories was dedicated in love and memory to Angus Darling, who will never be forgotten. To everyone, stay safe and good night.